Our story kicks off in the quaint suburban town of Hill Valley, where Marty McFly, a cool cat with a guitar in hand and a skateboard at his feet, is just trying to navigate the typical high school drama. He's your regular teenage dude dealing with teachers, bullies, and big dreams of rock and roll stardom. And meet the McFly family. George, the wimpy dad constantly bullied by his supervisor, Biff Tannen, Lorraine, Marty's mom who's sorta lost that spark in her eyes, and the siblings who feel like they're extras in a sitcom gone wrong. The McFlys are like a TV dinner, not exactly satisfying, but it's what's on the table. Enter Doc Emmett Brown, the kooky genius inventor with wild hair and a lab coat that's seen better days. He's the neighborhood nutty professor who's been working on a secret project that's about to change everything. Marty's connection with Doc is the talk of the town, and let's be real. Who wouldn't want to hang with the guy who turned a DeLorean into something more than an overpriced sports car? Doc's crib is like a shrine to Einstein meets garage sale chic, and it's the hub of all things scientifically bizarre. Then there's Marty's girlfriend, Jennifer Parker, the token love interest with the right amount of 80s sass expressing her frustration with Marty's life going nowhere fast, and hinting she sees a brighter future for the two of them. The seeds of adventure are planted in Marty's laid-back life, setting the stage for the time travel escapades that are about to go down when Marty's late for school, shredding through town on a skateboard, clutching the back of a Jeep. Because why waste foot power when you've got style? And that's the long and short of how Marty McFly rolls before his life takes a turn for the historic, literally.
History is gonna change.
Picture this. It's the dead of night, and Marty meets up with Doc Brown in the deserted parking lot of Twin Pines Mall. There's a certain electricity in the air, and no, it's not just from the crackling neon signs. Marty's about to witness the unveiling of Doc Brown's masterpiece. The reason he's been collecting clocks and sketching flux capacitors. The DeLorean time machine, decked out with gizmos and a flux capacitor, gleaming under the parking lot lights. As Doc rants about his eureka moment involving a toilet, a head bump, and the flux capacitor, he demonstrates the time machine's capabilities by sending his trusty dog, Einstein, 1 minute into the future. Marty's mind is like, totally blown. He's got his camcorder out recording everything because who's gonna believe this without proof? But, hold on to your hats because here's where destiny pulls a fast one. Just as they're celebrating their successful test, boom, the party crashers arrive. A van full of angry Libyans, whom Doc swindled out of some plutonium for his time travel experiment. Because, hey, you can't just buy that at the corner store, you can cut the tension with a knife as bullets start flying. Doc, the crafty old fox, tries to dodge the Libyan lead but he's shot and collapses. Marty's there, jaw dropped to the floor, thinking this can't be happening. In a panic, Marty jumps into the DeLorean and tries to escape. But as he's dodging bullets and vans like it's a bonus round in an arcade game, he hits that magic number 88 miles per hour. The night sky lights up with an otherworldly glow. The flux capacitor does its neon dance, and before Marty can say "Great Scott," he's flung backwards through time like a VHS tape on rewind. And bam! We cruise into 1955, and our main man Marty is now stranded in a time where swell is still a cool word. The farmer, mistaking Marty's futuristic jumpsuit and car for an alien invasion, comes out guns blazing, but Marty manages to escape, minus a few pine trees, hence the Twin Pines Mall becoming the Lone Pine Mall. Oops, first footprint. Realizing his fuel tank's on E with no plutonium pit stops in sight, he's got to think on his feet and tuck the DeLorean away like a hidden Easter egg on Old Man Peabody's farm. In need of aid, Marty heads to Hill Valley, which turns out to be a picture-perfect postcard from the past, complete with a splash of classic 50s Americana. He hits the diner, and scouting around, he stumbles upon his young dad, George McFly, an even bigger dweeb than the 1985 version, if you can believe it. And like some twisted version of Family Ties, Biff's there too, shaking George down, showing that some things never change. Here comes the kicker. Marty's presence has thrown a serious wrench into the cogs of his parents' destiny. He ends up saving George from a car. And instead of George finding himself in Lorraine's swooning arms, Marty becomes the knight in Calvin Klein underwear.
That is your name, isn't it? Calvin Klein? It's written all over your underwear.
Lorraine, Marty's future mom, is head over heels for him, jeopardizing Marty's chances of ever being born. Talk about an Oedipal complex. Realizing the gravity of the situation and with Lorraine fawning over him like he's Elvis, Marty seeks out the Doc Brown of 1955 who's rocking a mega mind, but minus the weathered look. After the initial shock and some convincing with the help of a videotape and a heartfelt explanation, Doc's jaw finally comes off the floor, and he's on board with Marty's Back to the Future plan. Doc's verbiage goes full science babble, explaining they need a bolt of lightning to generate the 1.21 gigawatts required to power the DeLorean. By a stroke of luck or plot convenience, Marty knows exactly when and where they can find this lightning.
This is the answer. That a bolt of lightning is going to strike the clock tower precisely 10:04 p.m. next Saturday night.
So here we are, smack dab in the heart of 1955. Marty, still reeling from the complexities of being his own mom's dreamboat, has roped in Doc Brown to help him navigate the stormy waters of temporal mechanics. With the lightning storm clock ticking loud and clear in their minds, they're planning like it's a NASA mission. The only problem, Marty's dad, George, is to romance what a bicycle is to a fish. It just ain't happening. Enter Marty McFly, cool guy and love guru. He concocts a scheme to get George and Lorraine to fall for each other. It's as brilliant as it is bonkers. Marty, disguised as Darth Vader from the planet Vulcan, gives George a rude awakening one night. With a mix of sci-fi threats and a Walkman blasting Van Halen, he convinces George that he needs to ask Lorraine out, or else. Talk about intergalactic motivation. Meanwhile, Marty's working double time, nudging George towards Lorraine like a puppet master, and it's a ballet of awkwardness. Marty, taking one for the team, will look like a creep at the upcoming school dance, setting George up to swoop in like a gallant geek to win Lorraine's heart. It's a plan that's so crazy it just might work. As the school dance, the enchanting Enchantment Under the Sea approaches, Marty's choreographing this high school romance like it's a Broadway show, except the cast is two teens with two left feet when it comes to love. With every tick-tock of the clock, we're reminded that Marty's window to skip back to 1985 is about as tight as the jeans on a teddy boy. If George doesn't plant one on Lorraine, Marty might as well be disappearing. George is mustering his courage to play the hero in the staged parking lot confrontation turned love connection. Yet, as he approaches the car where Marty and Lorraine are supposed to be awaiting his bravado, the universe throws a cosmic wrench in the shape of Biff Tannen, the guy who's been schoolyard bullying since he could walk. Biff muscles Marty out of the car, taking his place beside a struggling Lorraine. The atmosphere is thick with tension as Marty is cast aside and peril fills the air like smoke from Doc's blown fuses. It's not the mock confrontation they planned, it's the real deal, and Lorraine's in trouble. Cue George, arriving to the scene with his half-baked hero's resolve, and a script he doesn't know has been rewritten on the fly. He opens the car door to confront what he believes to be Marty, but comes face to face with Biff, who's a whole different ballgame, one with no rules and all the brute force of a high school tyrant. In this moment, the build-up peaks and the energy crackles. George is outmatched, but the stakes are soaring, with Lorraine's safety, Marty's existence, and a family's future all hanging on George's next move. It's the gut check time, and with a surge of newfound courage born from seeing Lorraine in distress, George lands a punch that lays Biff out cold. It's an underdog's home run, and suddenly, the path to Marty's familial conception seems wide open once more. George decks Biff with a knockout punch that seems like it's straight out of a comic book. It's instant legend. The gymnasium buzzes with shock and awe. Our George, that lovable bumbling underdog, is now George the Hero McFly. Amidst the cheers and the newfound love light in Lorraine's eyes, George leads her onto the dance floor. This is Marty's cue. His existence quite literally depends on him to jumpstart the band and keep the evening on track. With his guitar skills ready, Marty steps up and strums out the chords that rev the engine of romance on the dance floor. The music cascades around George and Lorraine, enveloping them in a melodic embrace as they finally share their first fateful kiss. And just like that, the picture of Marty's family begins to sharpen back into focus within the photograph he carries, the edges of his future solidifying with the certainty of their affection. But wait, we're not out of the woods, or out of the past, yet. Our boy Marty still has a ticking clock to race against, a weather phenomenon to catch, and a DeLorean that needs a bolt from the blue sky above. After bringing down the house with a rendition of Johnny B. Good that's too ahead of its time, Marty hands off the guitar and darts to the clock tower, joining a fretting Doc Brown. Turns out connecting a car to a temporal plasma channel via a lightning bolt isn't just plug and play. Who knew, right? The rain plummets down, the wind howls like a hound on Halloween, and Hill Valley's clock tower ticks its mechanical heart out, waiting to catch a spark from the heavens. Marty's in the driver's seat, the flux capacitor's ready to flex, and Doc's doing acrobatics with the cables on the slick, rain-drenched ledge of the tower. Here's where fate flexes, teasing our heroes with every tick, every slip, and every misaligned second. Cables disconnect, tree branches fly like witches' brooms, and Doc Brown's grip on the situation is as slippery as a bar of soap in the shower. Marty's ready to punch it. Doc's hanging on by the tips of his fingers, and Destiny's dialing up the drama like it's got a quota to meet. The DeLorean's revving, the clock's hands are inching closer to the appointed time, and the storm of the century is about to etch itself into history. Meanwhile, Marty's got the pedal to the metal, the DeLorean screaming towards the fateful point where the present will meet the past, connecting through a bolt of raw electric future. The engine roars as Marty races toward the wire that Doc is desperately trying to reconnect. The storm rages, the wind howls, and time seems to slow down, knowing the show it's attending is a once-in-a-universe event. Then, in a heart-stopping moment, Doc triumphs over the elements, connecting the two ends of the cable just as Marty hurtles towards the finish line. The clock strikes, the lightning hits, and a surge of energy races down the cable with a fierce, incandescent fury. For a split second, everything is illuminated. Marty, the DeLorean, Doc Brown, and all of Hill Valley are etched into a tableau of electric blues and whites, intense enough to burn the very fabric of the night sky. In the aftermath, Doc is left in the echoing silence of the square, exhilarated, breathless, and alone. The car, Marty, and the storm have all but vanished into the thin air from which they had so boldly claimed their victory over time. This is the crescendo, the fireworks finale, the absolute zenith where courage meets madness, science meets the supernatural, and a teenager in a car becomes a legend that will echo through the ages of Hill Valley's lore. Crackling back into existence, Marty finds himself once again in the familiar yet never more welcome setting of 1985, with a mixture of elation and disorientation, watches the early morning life of Hill Valley trudge sleepily by. But he's not one to sit still. There's a Doc Brown to save and a new future to witness. With memories of 1955 still fresh, he rushes to the Twin Pines Mall, or is it Lone Pine now, to intercept his past self and prevent Doc's fateful encounter with the Libyans. Despite his efforts, he's too late, or is he? In an intricate ballet of time's cause and effect, Marty can only watch as the events he knows too well unfold again, with a crucial twist. Doc, ever the maverick, wore a bulletproof vest, having taken Marty's advice from the future to heart.
How did you know? Not all that talk about screwing up future events, the space-time continuum.
Well, I figured. What the hell?
Reunited, the boy and the scientist share a moment of victory and vindication. Doc, with his eccentric charm, reassures Marty that he'll be off on another temporal escapade, feeding the curious cat with tales of the future. Marty heads home, his mission complete, yet he's greeted not by the threadbare existence he left behind but by a new reality. George McFly, confident and successful, Lorraine, vibrant and content, and his siblings, polished and poised. Even Biff, amazingly, has been tamed into a fawning yes-man buffing George's car. It's astonishing what a punch and a bolt of lightning can do. Marty's own fortunes have turned as well. No more busted amplifiers. Instead, he finds the truck of his dreams awaiting him, and Jennifer, his constant, reappears by his side, unaltered by the temporal tides. It seems love, like the deepest of grooves on a vinyl record, is impervious to the whims of time. Just as Marty starts to settle into his new old life, Doc returns in a whirlwind of flying DeLorean and futuristic fashion, insisting that Marty and Jennifer come with him to fix something in the future. Their kids, it seems, need a little McFly guidance. And we're off. Wheels up, time circuits on, and with a trailblazing
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
they zoom toward a future only Doc has seen, closing the chapter on one adventure and cracking open the next.